Good afternoon. This is Mitch Lincoln with the Central Texas Chapter Board. Apologies for starting off a little late. We were just working through some technical challenges. But good afternoon and welcome to the March Learning event. I'm excited to bring you an interesting topic presented here by Special Agent Christopher Hicks. Here momentarily, just wanted to provide just a quick announcement that the Central Texas Chapter is going to have an upcoming chapter networking event on March 30th in Austin, Texas. This will be an opportunity for our community to build relationships, discuss current trends, and market activities. Further event details on time and location will be sent out in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that. But jumping right into the presentation, welcome Special Agent Christopher Hicks. As mentioned, he's a Special Agent with Homeland Security Investigations and is assigned to the Los Angeles Field Office. He specializes in cryptocurrency and dark web investigations and was a founding member of Los Angeles Field Office's Cyber Financial Group. Prior to this assignment, he conducted a wide array of financial and asset forfeiture investigations. He began his federal law enforcement career in 2010 as a special agent in the U.S. Secret Service, where he conducted bank fraud and asset forfeiture investigations. So welcome, Chris, and thank you very much for your time today on speaking on this topic.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much for having me today. I'm sorry about some technical difficulties. As always, I feel like it is with consistently doing these. You'd think we'd be experts now, having been doing this for a couple of years of COVID, but I feel like it's always different. So again, yeah, thanks for having me today. So we'll start off kind of going over the topics to address. So if we can just kind of go to the next slide here, and then we'll get going. So here's what we're discussing today. So we're going to go over kind of like a basic cryptocurrency dark web 101. And please let me know if there's any audio issues or anything else today. I hope we can alleviate those. But so today we'll be going over like cryptocurrency and blockchain and the types of wallets that are being used, that we're seeing nowadays. How Bitcoin and the dark web is being used by both criminal actors and investigators. We're going to go over the types of cryptocurrency exchanges out there. We'll briefly touch on what guys are using for encrypted messaging platforms to communicate to one another, and how some of these guys perpetuate these crimes. We're going to go over storage, the type of cryptocurrency storage wallets that are out there, and what are called hardware wallets. And we'll go over a little bit of asset forfeiture and recovery of these funds, of cryptocurrency. We'll go over some training. We'll go over chain analysis, which is one of the primary tracing tools that we use for tracing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And then we're going to go over investigative strategies and then end with any Q&A that you guys might have related to cryptocurrency or the dark web. So as a quick list, what I have for you guys is something that I always kind of put up at the beginning. If you're not super familiar with cryptocurrency in general, but you are familiar with the financial side of the house, this is a quick list we have been using for a while, and I probably should update it with a few more key terms. But you'll notice the big things you want to take into account are, when we say bank account, we typically mean like a Bitcoin address. Sometimes people intermix that term with Bitcoin, or they'll say like wallet or a wallet address. The password or PIN is going to be what's called your private key. And then we're going to go over the bank, instead of a bank ledger, that's going to be the blockchain where all the transactions are publicly held related to Bitcoin. I don't get too deep in the weeds already, but there are things that are on a privacy chain where you can't see those transactions, but today we'll primarily be focusing on Bitcoin. And then like your bank statement is going to be like a block, which occurs every 10 minutes when cryptocurrency or Bitcoin is mined. And then we'll kind of go over a few more key terms as we go. I don't want to overwhelm you with it right now, but this is just one of the slides that we have. So, and then hopefully we can get you guys, if you are interested, there's a copy I think we can provide you of these as we go. So here are kind of continuation of the key terms that I want you guys to know today. So again, the blockchain refers to the chain of all the transactions that occur. So we don't necessarily know who's on that blockchain because it's alphanumeric numbers that show the representation of ownership, but just know the key term there is going to be that's where all the transactions take place. The other thing we want you to know today, and we're going to go over these as we go through the presentation, is that mining refers to the process of verifying transactions that create the blockchain and generate new Bitcoin. So essentially, like mining in occurrence with generating a new Bitcoin, right, also confirms and manages all the transactions that occur that when people try to transfer Bitcoin or cryptocurrency throughout the day. A wallet refers to the location of where the user can maintain, accept, or transfer Bitcoin. Every currency or cryptocurrency out there has their own unique wallet. And that's where you can see in the next slide here, there's different wallets. Now, all of these are Bitcoin wallets. Bitcoin wallets typically begin with a 1, a 3, or a BC1. And in this, can you go back one real quick? And then in that slide, what you're going to see here is you're going to see it's a 1, a 3, or BC1. And you can see as cryptocurrency, as the wallets get updated, there's a new formation to that the beginning of the wallet address. So you can see there's a 1, a 3, a BC1Q, a BC1P. But are just examples of when those type of wallets were implemented. And then the other thing we're going to talk about a little bit today is how they obfuscate the source of their Bitcoin. Is some people use mixers or what are called tumblers, and that's just a process. One second here. Okay. Sorry about that. So the tumbler is essentially like how people join their coins together and try to obfuscate the source of those coins. And just know, like a lot of people ask kind of one of those things where, what are the chances of me mistyping or misspelling a wallet? It's probably even higher than now, but it's typically 1 in 4.29 billion of you mistyping a wrong wallet. But typically, not many people type in wallets anymore. It's all based off QR code. So the QR code is essentially just like you would do with any other platform if you use PayPal, Zelle, or anything else. So the phone number, you can scan a QR code and input in the system, and it alleviates you having to type in this long, like 25 or so digit number into the system. And just know there's no uppercase O's, uppercase I's, lowercase L's, and it's just because otherwise you would have a problem with typing in addresses. So for that main reason, they don't have that. So what we're looking at here on the next slide is the common charges, at least at the federal level, that we look at. I'm not as familiar with on the state level of how they're prosecuting yet, outside of finding traditional like wire fraud charges. But on the federal side, here's what we primarily look into. Cryptocurrency touches almost every single one of our investigative statutes, and we have the largest in the country. I think everyone always thinks like the FBI do, but ours encompasses both like customs, immigration. It covers all the traditional criminal statutes that you look at. Most of them fall under what's called Title 18. And so for the vast majority of the investigations I look into that involve dark web, it typically is weapons trafficking, and then most of the dark web markets, I would say the vast majority of them are mostly for like narcotics trafficking. But again, there are also specific marketplaces that do counterfeit and stolen IDs, identities, synthetic identities. There's other ones that are heavily involved, like prepaid card trafficking. But all of these are the type of statutes that we look into for charging federally. So the other question I think we consistently get with virtual currencies, not just Bitcoin in general, or with cryptocurrencies, are what inherently gives them value, right? And the value of those is just like a fiat currency, like anything else. Like what gives the U.S. dollar value, right? It's a piece of paper, it's a piece of green linen, or a piece of linen that has green ink splattered on it with a couple security features. But it's the trust and backing of the U.S. government that gives it value. And in the case of cryptocurrencies, what gives it value is their high level. It's the level of security that is attached to the blockchain that makes it so you can't hack the blockchain. You can't just create cryptocurrency out of thin air. There's a finite amount of them, at least regarding when I say Bitcoin, there's a finite amount of them. There's only ever going to be 21 million of them. There are other cryptocurrencies out there with an unlimited amount of Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, an unlimited amount of coin. But today, again, we'll try to focus specifically on Bitcoin. So what gives it value? It's the trust in it. Like it's been proven over and over again that it hasn't been hacked or hasn't been able to be hacked. With that said, I could come out with Chris Coin tomorrow, and it would probably be hacked to death in a minute. There'd be no trust in it, so it would have no value. But Bitcoin's been around. It's survived the long haul right now of cryptocurrency. So you can see that essentially that's why it's the most trusted and well-known one at the moment. I think, again, that may change in the future, but I think just for namesake alone, Bitcoin is the most well-known one. And again, the inherent value is it's a unit of exchange, it's easy to move, and the value is publicly known for what its current valuation is. I think today it's like 42,000 or something like that around there per coin. Again, the main type of investigations that we are seeing, really anywhere that there's money movement, I would say you can find cryptocurrency. But the main place we see is online gambling, and part of the online gambling community you see is how people are laundering their cryptocurrency through a bunch of different overseas platforms. We consistently see it with guys now using it in child pornography investigations. We see it everywhere in drug sales. And the drug sales are some of the things in these darknet marketplaces. You'll see a lot more what are called privacy coins, where we can't necessarily trace them as well. We'll talk about in a little bit. but we see them in also in money laundering, Ponzi schemes, and with the Ponzi schemes, we've seen things that are called like initial coin offering investigations. That's where someone comes out, claims they have a new coin that they want everybody to invest in. They get a lot of owners, they get a lot of interested parties. They want to make money quickly, and then they pull out of there, which is like an exit scam, or they just keep finding more and more investors, and it's the traditional Ponzi style where they keep paying people off as it goes and people cash out. So pretty much anything, again, like I don't mean to limit it to this. Almost anything we see nowadays that involves cash or movement of quick movement of cash or currency, we'll also find that guys are moving into the crypto world. So again, what's the primary use of cryptocurrency? The greater mobility of funds. It's easier to move and avoid. It's easier to avoid institutions that would typically do AML, KYC for these things. Again, there's no intermediary institutions. You can do peer-to-peer transactions on these things. The perceived or real anonymity of the cryptocurrency, depending what you're using, and the idea that again, there's less regulation in law enforcement. That's been changing over the years a little bit as it gets more and more publicly traded by larger companies that get more involved in cryptocurrency. There's more knowledge of AML, KYC that gets known to the public. As we start charging more and more of these people in investigations, more of the affidavits kind of get out there, and there's more knowledge of, I guess, the criminal world of like that law enforcement can't essentially pursue these cases and track the funds. So in short, I'm sorry if this is a lot of repeat. I know cryptocurrency has been around for a while, but I want to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page. The quick thing to know about cryptocurrency is that it's math-based. Right? There's no centralized administrating authority or oversight. So if you send cryptocurrency to the wrong address, or someone tells you, or if you get scammed by the cryptocurrency, there's no recall button. There's no centralizing authority to get it back for you. It's gone. So just one thing to always know. And it's open source platform is the way we want to know. So there's a little bit more news as of recent. I think the other day there was an executive order looking at the formation of a U.S. digital currency or cryptocurrency, which is interesting. But most of the, like as far as FinCEN goes, and so the regulation regarding cryptocurrency came out back in 2013, reviewing it as a commodity. But as far as we're going to go over the origin of Bitcoin, is about October 31st of 2008, an individual or a group known as Satoshi Nakamoto published the original white paper for a peer-to-peer platform of electronic cash, essentially avoiding the current centralized financial system and institutions. The first block, though, was produced on January 3rd, 2009. And again, the interesting thing about all these is, one, I wish I would have invested in them, I think, was like we all did years ago. But it's drastically changed since when it first issued and how easy it's become to use with mobile platforms. Back in the day, it's funny, it doesn't even seem that long ago now. It was a little more complicated to get involved in, but as ease of use has come and the adoption's been greater, obviously we see more use of this. But for cryptocurrency and for Bitcoin alone, I won't speak this, just know there's never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoin, and that's part of the appeal of Bitcoin, right? That you can't just expand the amount of Bitcoin and the valuation changes that greatly in that sense. But the year will probably be 2140 before the final one is mined, and that's because the mathematical problem to solve the next Bitcoin gets incrementally harder as it goes. I just know there's roughly about 900 Bitcoin mined per day, and it's every 10 minutes that the chain populates it that way. But just know that.
Hey, Chris, this is Mitch. Sorry to interrupt. And I know we're far from 2140, but a question came in from the chat is, what will happen or incentivize miners to verify transactions once all the coins have been mined? If we're all still alive by then.
Yeah, so miners get, so for every transaction that goes out there, they get a percentage of that. There's a fee that's associated with the transaction. So even when you max out like there won't be any more Bitcoin produced, as long as transactions are still taking place, there's still a miner fee that's going to be associated to those transactions. So it's not just like the mining, like trying to all solve this problem now, because again, the electricity cost of producing some of these coins is exceptionally high. So that's why you find guys in the past that were stealing electricity. They were doing these other countries where the electricity rate was low, or there'd be these giant warehouses full of like essentially like graphics cards that would get, and then they would just open up. It was like a super cool environment. I know like Russia or Iceland or Greenland, they were doing it for a while. They would just open up the windows and cool these places. There was no cooling fee associated or air conditioning fee because they were generating so much heat. But yeah, the miners still get a percentage of every transaction that gets processed. It's just obviously it's a larger amount gets processed. If that makes sense. And there's certain platforms that allow you to set like fees. So if you want to get your transaction processed faster, you can add a larger fee to that, which incentivizes the mining pools or these groups to process the transaction faster. hope that makes sense. Anyway, the big thing here, I should keep thinking this by saying now, but just know that there are about 13,000 different types of cryptocurrencies out there, which sounds absolutely insane. I will say that there's probably about a top 20 or 30 coins out there, depending what you want to do with them. But there are coins for everything now. Like everything you can think of too. Increased efficiencies and how software how software works. Cryptocurrencies that are more privacy based. Cryptocurrencies like Ethereum that work on what are called smart contracts. There's all these different venues, and I will say, like, again, not to give Coinbase, but like there's research you can do on all these different coins. I will say Coinbase's app is one of the friendlier ones, and for all the coins that they do have on there, there are like little descriptions of what each coin is used for on there, or what it can be used for, or how they try to incentivize the use of that coin. And not Coinbase, the creators of that coin. But just know there's a lot of them out there. We primarily look at tracing for these cryptocurrencies, like a top 10 I would say we primarily look into for tracing purposes. But yeah, just know there's an exceptional amount of them, and all of the coin market and all of the market capitalization of all these coins is available on CoinMarketCap. So if you want to see how much of the valuation is, their price point over time, all the different things. So,
hey Chris, another question from the team is: can you discuss more on the miners utilizing the graphic cards for mining purposes?
Yes. Again, I'm not the most technical person as it comes to that, but I know that they've done with graphic cards. That's why they've gone up so high. Is the processing power that they've had for graphics cards, rather than having separate standalone terminals set up for mining, is much more efficient. They were originally meant that way for doing like high-end computer games, visualizations, and processing, and it just happened to be a great tool for mining cryptocurrency. So if you ever see like mining racks where guys are setting up like cryptocurrency mining racks, and they're like occasionally we see them on warrants, but you'll see warehouses set up with these things where they're all networked together to solve the mathematical equation, or essentially for getting the next block in the chain, or getting the next cryptocurrency coin, or rewarded for solving that mathematical problem. It's just the way that cards are built now. I guess it's the easiest way without getting too technical into solving that. Essentially, it's like, I guess, having a CPU kind of all in one for solving that mathematical problem. I guess it's the easy. Maybe, and again, I'm sure there's probably someone who's more technical on the call than I that can explain that better. But that's why the graphics cards have gone up so high. Everyone's kind of using them for the purpose of mining. I hope that answers that, but maybe not. Anyway, so real quick. So I know we have an hour, so I probably let me know if I'm talking too fast too. That's one of my curses here. But so the quick sources that we have of cryptocurrencies are from exchanges, peer-to-peer transfers, and you'll see this a lot now in all of your, all the way across the country and the world are ATMs and kiosks, which have become so popular. It's crazy. I'll show you a quick couple numbers here in a second. Exchanges, obviously, are the ones that are similar to banks. You can open up an account with them. They do AML and KYC compliance, at least the ones based in the U.S. do. Overseas, not so much. And obviously, there are peer-to-peer people that are supposed to be registered with FinCEN to be able to do peer-to-peer transactions for the large scale or exchanging outside of just like individuals exchanging cryptocurrency together. And then there are kiosks, which make it pretty easy. And the kiosks are supposed to be AML KYC compliant, but almost all of these the manufacturers are overseas. And even though they do come with AML KYC compliance tools, many of the vendors and users that we have over here of those kiosks do not set those AML KYC controls. So traditionally, we look at on the left here, you're going to see a traditional payment when you think of how it works, and I'm sure how all of you are familiar with, versus how a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency payment works. You can see it's a much simpler process on the coin side of the house, just for either peer-to-peer or peer-to-consumer. Occasionally, you will see guys now, especially when they want to launder their cryptocurrency from dark web marketplaces or other places, they go through what's called a coin join or a mixing service. So that isn't in there, but I just want to give you guys a simple understanding of how it works. So you can obviously see there's 9 or more steps involved in a traditional payment through the financial system, where the cryptocurrency side is much easier. So we see individuals moving a much greater volume of narcotics or criminal proceeds through cryptocurrencies now. Now, at the end of the day, they still have to find someone who will exchange for cash for them, but there are plenty of those people just running around who will do in-person cash exchanges. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, even though cryptocurrencies out there allows a much easier transfer of international proceeds or from criminal proceeds internationally, no matter what, almost at the end of the day, like everybody wants cash in hand, but even if it's US dollars or euros, whatever it ends up being. So real quickly, so whenever we do undercover or we do transactions with individuals, especially in person for these transactions, it's pretty much just scanning a QR code, right? It's us meeting in a Starbucks. One of us has a duffel bag full of cash, the other one has a QR code. We make sure the cryptocurrency gets processed minus a transaction fee, which you'll see like in-person people or these cash exchanges, these unlicensed money remitters will typically charge you between 4 and 6% of the transaction that you're doing. So yeah, and then pretty much from there, it's just phones. I mean, there are still people that do use laptops for a lot of these, especially our dark web vendors. It's easier for them to be on the marketplace, post photos or other things like that on the interface. But almost every one of our vendors and our guys now, if it's like weapons sales, to child pornography, to whatever you can think of, like narcotics, it's almost every one of them uses their phone now, right? It's the mobile computer in your hand. So the phone essentially for whatever app or wallet service you're using, there are a series of them, and I encourage everyone to try one, to download an exchange one. Again, it doesn't have to be Coinbase, but theirs is probably one of the most well-known or user-friendly interfaces that are out there. You can always just see the general process of how it works. But if you're familiar with Zelle or any other type of payment platform like PayPal, they're very, very similar. So it's it's both of you opening up a wallet service. It doesn't have to be the same one. So I could have my Coinbase app, and someone else could have Electrum wallet. And as long as we're changing the same currency together, and we have the same recognition on the phone saying we want to transfer Bitcoin on the phone, it's just scanning a QR code or having a wallet number and essentially sending it, and the transaction will process. So for investigators, I always say is if you are not really familiar with cryptocurrency, but if you want to know what we're looking for on the back end of it, what we're looking for the transaction ID. The transaction ID is that number at the bottom right there. It's that longer number at the bottom, and you can see it doesn't start with a 1. In this case, it's Bitcoin, so it's not going to be starting with a 1, a 3, or a BC1. But the transaction ID is going to be what allows us to pinpoint that specific transaction that happened. So if you ever had victims or anybody else and said, I didn't know it was a scam, but I was told to send the money to this wallet, having the wallet address for us is great. But again, there could be thousands of transactions that go into that wallet. So what we want is we want to have the transaction ID to know that specific transaction took place. Because what happens is it gives us the date, the time, and the amount of the cryptocurrency that moves, and allows us to more specifically look into that transaction and try to trace that transaction. So just in short here, this is the process of how it works. You would open your wallet, you provide someone with your public key, and they can scan it, or you can scan theirs, and so you know where the cryptocurrency is going to be sent. And once it gets sent, the transaction ID is generated for that specific transaction. And again, I included a couple extra slides in here for you guys in case the slides are passed out or in case you are taking screenshots of them. I don't want to go over these all in depth, but again, it just gives you a different visualization since I tend to like a little bit visualizations better than someone just talking the entire time. So this is just a quick process of how essentially the Bitcoin lifecycle works. It's essentially scanning a QR code. It processes the fee amount of what it's going to cost to send that amount and sends. Once it does that, it goes onto the blockchain, right? And that's all the machine processing they have is in the background where it processes through all the transaction nodes. It validates the transaction to make sure it's legitimate and no one's trying to hack the system. And that's the security of blockchain. And I won't get too deep into blockchain today, but you're going to be seeing blockchain technology pop up everywhere, I think, probably in the next 10 years. For even if it's your social security number, it's the title to your car, it's your house. You're going to see so many things that maybe even if you don't see them publicly, but behind the scenes, they're probably going to be operating on something similar to a blockchain, just because the security is so strong and how that works, and the amount of verifications that are required on the back end. So it essentially prevents hacking. So anyway, just another quick visualization for you on the long process of what is happening behind the scenes. So these next couple of slides I'm going to show you guys are essentially if you wanted to publicly look into tracing a blockchain transaction. I will tell you it's incredibly hard without having a software tool, which we're going to get into in a minute. There are several software tools out there for tracing cryptocurrency. Specifically in this case, we're looking at, again, Bitcoin. This is the old blockchain.info, which is now blockchain.com, and I'm going to show you the new slides here in a minute, but these have the ones I quickly tagged for you to see how it works. So you're going to see there's an input address, there's an output address of where it goes, and there's what's called a change address. Because the way Bitcoin and crypto, not all cryptocurrencies work this way, but the way it works is if there's one Bitcoin in a wallet and you want to send a half a Bitcoin goes to the recipient you're sending it to. The other half goes to what's called the change wallet, right? Which is minus the fees. It goes back into a separate wallet. It doesn't go back into the same address that you had there. And just know there can be multiple input addresses to even one address. I know this is fun. We took it years ago. This is the Snowden Defense Fund that we had. That was an example we put on here. You can see there's multiple input to one address. So again, we always say, like, if you can, try to get us the transaction ID. That's going to be the most helpful thing for us to be able to trace cryptocurrency on a software analysis tool. This is the new blockchain.com, so it's the same website, but so you can see it has a little bit cleaner and different visualization of it. I always encourage you to go look at these different ones. There's a myriad of different blockchain addresses that you can use out there, publicly available. If you see someone saying on the news, like, hey, this group received, I think now there's a big one going on for like Ukraine. There's like a cryptocurrency Ukraine defense fund that's around. And so you can see like all the cryptocurrency transactions going to that, and this is one of the public ways that you can do it is on blockchain.com. And this is under the Explorer tool at the top you're going to see there. And so you can see there's input and then there's the output of where it's going. Again, this is not very friendly, especially if you don't know what you're looking at. So I would always tell you, if you are doing these investigations, it's almost a requirement, I would say it's a requirement, that you have a software analysis tool. And we're going to get that in just a minute here so you can see how much friendlier it is to look at a software analysis tool. So when dealing with cryptocurrency, right, there's a couple different ways that you can store that cryptocurrency. One is on a localized wallet based on your machine. There's like a web wallet or where you can have like an interface, almost like an exchange where they maintain your currency. And that was called a paper wallet. A paper wallet is essentially printing off just that QR code. There's a QR code you can print off on the private side. The problem with that is if you don't save that anywhere, it's essentially like having cash in hand. So if you destroy that paper wallet, that QR code, that cryptocurrency is gone forever. There's no way to recover it. So even for Bitcoin in general, even though there are 21 million coins that are ever going to be generated, there's never going to be that many use because so many people have had their paper wallets destroyed over the years. They lost passwords to their devices. There's infamously a guy who threw his laptop out in 2017, I think, or 2016, didn't realize it, with like 7,500 Bitcoin on it. So there's always an article, I think, that pops up once a year with someone claiming they found that laptop in a landfill because there's so much money on it. But that was a localized storage of cryptocurrency. So with wallet addresses, that's one thing. So no matter what wallet platform you use, you can generate pretty much an infinite number of wallet addresses. A lot of our guys that we do undercover deals with, or even when we generate an amount in one wallet for one transaction, and most people generally don't use that wallet again. It helps keep track of things, at least for our side on the investigative side. But you can generate an unlimited amount of them in any application or wallet platform. You just keep clicking generate, and a new wallet address will generate. So the thing we look for specifically when we're doing warrants or anything like that, and this is even for personally if you are invested in cryptocurrency, there's going to be a seed phrase, right? So if you lose your phone or your device or whatever it is, but you still have that seed phrase, the seed phrase is essentially what allows you to recover that cryptocurrency onto another device. And this applies to both, this primarily applies to, but you'll really see it applying to what are called hardware wallets. That's a separate encryption tool that people can use for securing their cryptocurrency. And so this is kind of like an all-in-one slide here a little bit. But essentially what we're going to talk about too in the next coming slides here is what's called clustering. And this is the attribution of when we say, okay, we looking through software analytics or through wallet tracing, we can identify that this user most likely controls these series of wallets and or cryptocurrency addresses. This is going to be one of the most helpful things if you're ever conducting an investigation. There's a series of platforms that do this. There's Chainalysis, which is the primarily one I use. There's another one called CipherTrace. There's another one that we used in the past called Elliptic. There's another one called TRM Labs. I think those are the main four that we'll discuss in a little bit. But through clustering heuristics is how we identify attribution of wallets and being able to say they're generated by a single user. I'm going to get to the weeds on that. But the other thing we look for, and this may be not so helpful for you guys, but just understanding what we look for when we're out doing warrants, or if you ever have looked at forensic artifacts, we typically look for like .dat file, like there's a .wallet or .dat files we typically look for. And these are typically indications of cryptocurrency storage on devices. We tend to look at like browser history and things like that. This is just more for your awareness on the back end of what we look for, especially when we're trying to identify or like if there's like victims accounts or anything that we can identify. We look for like the visitation of exchanges. We look for vendors, especially for online black market or dark market, what they call darknet marketplaces. mobile applications on their phone, forums, bank statements, and this is kind of where some people don't realize, like, even though cryptocurrency is used, so many people still use traditional financial systems. Obviously, if you're doing it correctly, for a lot of the exchanges, they only accept wires now. So it's going to be a wire from your bank account. They verify your name. They verify your identity. They take a photo of you or you take a photo of yourself from your phone and upload it onto the platform to confirm that that you are you, right? It's the same person that is in the driver's license that you upload. So a lot of times you see a crossover between the cryptocurrency world, between the exchanges and marketplaces, and then back into the traditional financial system. And much more of the companies and banks now have gotten good about filing SARs and CTRs for these transactions, especially related to the cryptocurrency transactions. Just like anything, with those transactions that touch the financial system, these individuals who are doing in-person transactions and acting as money remitters are supposed to be licensed with FinCEN. As an MSB, a money service business, right? A lot of our guys, especially operating in the Los Angeles area, are not money service businesses and have not operated and are registered that way. They tend to do it illegally, and that's why they're charging a higher percentage rate than the actual exchanges like Coinbase, Kraken, or Gemini, or any one of these exchanges charge, because they keep your anonymity there. So we just know this is the public-facing page. There's also one through the FinCEN portal as well, if you have the FinCEN portal, which I would always recommend over the public-facing page. So we touched a little bit on this. There are cryptocurrency ATMs out there. So if you can see here, the first one was introduced back in about 2013. And this is, I always kind of leave this stat here. I probably should update it. Back in 2014, there were 2,600 in the U.S., 4,300 worldwide. I think we have something like I think it's over 2,000 or more just in Los Angeles now. So you can see that they have exploded exponentially in how many cryptocurrency ATMs are around. There's only about 3 or 4 primary companies that make these things. The small one you're going to see in the upper right here, the gold one, and even the one below that, I think the gold one upper right is General Bytes, bottom one right there is Lamasu, and then I forgot if it's Genesis is the one in the middle there. But the larger machines will do cash in, cash out. Most of the smaller machines will only do cash in for crypto. They don't do cash out, and that's because they just don't have the processing inside to be able to spit that out. But if you ever want to see where any of these are, especially in your district or anything like that, you can always go to Coin ATM Radar. I will say not every one of them is posted, especially when people are not publicly registered or not registered as a money service business. But a lot of them are on Coin ATM Radar, and they tell you, like you'll see in the next slide here, they do tell you like the operator's name of the company, how you can get a hold of them, the general limits they do per day. And some of them are even updated a little bit more than this. Well, they'll tell you what requirements, like as far as IDs are required for transactions. But pretty good tool, especially if you want to look for those just in your area. So along with that, for people cashing out cryptocurrency, this is another one of the platforms where guys have traditionally used this in the past, if it's not outside of word of mouth, obviously, but is localbitcoins.com. You can find many exchanges on here. I think there are a couple other websites where you can find people willing to do exchanges for cash or cryptocurrency. This is just one of them. But there are platforms that will tell you the rate they're charging, if they meet the person or not, and what they're willing to exchange for what type of cryptocurrency they're willing to exchange. So this is a quick list that we have of the U.S. market. And there's more than these. There's a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges out there, a lot of money to be made. So you can tell, essentially, even in the past 5 years or so, if anybody who had money was trying to open up a cryptocurrency exchange to make more money. But the primarily ones that we have inside the U.S. marketplace are these. There's Binance US, Kraken, Gemini, Coinbase. Again, and there's other ones. It's just like kind of a quick top list we made recently for presentations. You'll see the biggest ones probably overseas are Binance and Huobi. And Bitfinex is also pretty large too. A lot of these companies, all the ones in the U.S. obviously are subpoena compliant, and they try to do good with doing AML, KYC. A lot of the overseas ones, not necessarily so much, but some of them that do have a U.S. office will reply to compliance requests like that. So this kind of goes back into presentations we used to do years ago, even before cryptocurrency, when we talked about different MSBs. But you'll see is that that a lot of the traditional money service businesses have moved into the crypto realm as well. PayPal announced, I think it was in 2020, that they were accepting cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. Cash App does now too. But even with that, you see other platforms where guys will use layering of services now. So we see people using Cash App, PayPal, cryptocurrency exchanges, but they'll overlap those into the use of traditional money service businesses, even like Western Union or MoneyGram. This is another interesting tool, and that criminals now are using. And again, there's legitimate reasons for it too. It's not to say that it's criminal in nature, but a lot of our criminal actors do use this service, among many others. There are card services now that allow you to link a swipeable card at a typical point of sale terminal. This one's BitPay, but there are other ones. I believe Coinbase is coming out with their own card now soon as well, where you can essentially link a cryptocurrency wallet or essentially to it. And so every time you do a transaction, it pulls that transaction from your cryptocurrency wallet. So just know that these services are available. We first encountered these probably in more of our investigations in maybe 2015, or no, maybe, well, I take that back. Maybe 2018, 2019, or sometime around then, we saw a lot of our criminal actors using this for in-person purchases at point-of-sale terminals as another way to move their cryptocurrency. So these are hardware wallets. And I thought this is a little bit of learning from a fire hose today. But hardware wallets are essentially another way for you to encrypt and store your own cryptocurrency or have it maintained by you and not based on an exchange. There's a myriad of platforms you can use. I would say the two that we typically see and that most people use are Ledger, like Ledger Nanos, or they have an updated model, or the Trezor ones, I think, are really called Trezor T models now. Those are probably the two we consistently see used, but there are a myriad of platforms that some are not quite as user-friendly as others. But this is a way that you can essentially encrypt access to your cryptocurrency. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is the commercially available blockchain analysis tools. Again, there are more than just these two companies, but I would say the two primary ones that we tend to use on the government side, outside of another one I don't have on here, which is TRM Labs, is Chainalysis and CipherTrace. These are the tools that allow you to visualize the tracing and are incredibly helpful. I can't stress enough how helpful these tools are. So you can also do the open source tracing tool like you saw earlier. There's like blockchain.com, Mempoolspace, Blockstream.com, and Wallet Explorer. They all kind of give you what you saw a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit of a simpler visualization of them, but the real helpful tools you're going to see are on Chainalysis, CipherTrace, which is now MasterCard, and TRM Labs. I will say a lot of institutions now, rather than just having tracing, they are using like CipherTrace, for example, because it gives you a 1 through 10 rating. 1 is like a green wall, like, hey, there's no access to the dark web. 10 is, okay, this money came directly from a dark web. Don't accept it or flag it immediately, or just know that you're planning to write a SAR on this activity coming from this wallet. That's like a whole another day, and I apologize of like cryptocurrency tracing platforms. That's way too short of a slide for what they are. But you'll see here in a couple more slides how good they are. But really what it enables us to do is something that if I was doing by hand, it might take me a day or 2 or 3 days to actually do tracing by hand. Now we can do within maybe a matter of like an hour or less. It's really just a speed. It's the visualization of the transactions you're looking at, and it's relationship building in there. It's having the addresses that you can cluster together and are what's called custom clustering. So once you know that an individual controls a series of wallet addresses, you can cluster them into one to make your graph cleaner and to understand that all of these wallets are used by the same individual. There is data that is scraped by some of these tools from the dark web. So it visualizes to allow us to know that if cryptocurrency is coming from a dark web marketplace that sells either like illicit materials, drugs, whatever it ends up being. Some of these do provide some of these companies do provide witness testimony, which is good for how their software works. Some don't. It also is a great interagency deconfliction tool for us. So here's a quick visualization of it. So this is Chainalysis, and again, not necessarily the best example from. I think I may have one more after this as well. But what you can see it does is it visualizes it for you. There's a tool that, back if you're from the military in the past, or there was a tool called Palantir, and it did a very similar thing to visualizing relationship graphs. But this is one of the ones where you can see here that it shows the transactions. The bubbles indicate different things. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds from it, but if there's a ring around the bubble, sometimes there's intelligence around that, or it has open source information that's available. But really, it just shows you the transactions and how they take place over time. As you can see, the amount that takes place, the transaction time and occurrence that takes place, and the amount that takes place. And this is where I told you earlier, where the transactions really help from having those transaction IDs. That's what really breaks out our ability to be able to trace cryptocurrency and hopefully even recover victims' funds, because we're seeing more and more now, like not just the business email compromise cases, we're seeing all the romance scams are all moving into cryptocurrency now. In LA, over the past 2 years, I would say we've had a large group of elderly romance scam victims, unfortunately, where they're being told to go to ATMs now, or Bitcoin ATMs, and essentially put the cash in and then send the money. Inevitably, it almost all goes overseas, as I'm sure a lot of you know. But it's become so prolific now, and it's like one of the number one things where they're telling a lot of our victims to go are these Bitcoin or cryptocurrency ATMs. So with that, you will see that almost a lot of our individuals now are using encrypted messaging platforms. There are more than just these three, or these six on here. Some of them are very country specific, like a lot of Chinese actors that we have use WeChat. You see a lot of the Middle East players using Telegram. And then there are email services like Proton Mail or Tutanota. And again, their use in and of itself is not illegal by any means. So again, just know that you can use these platforms, but a lot of criminal actors use them, and a lot of criminal actors are looking to actually communicate with financial institutions now using these. We definitely have seen in the past where some will reach out to private investment firms, other people only asking to speak via these encrypted messaging platforms. We would always say, please, obviously don't do that, or do whatever your company policy is. But this definitely makes our job harder if we're looking to backtrace who these individuals are that have affected our victims. And I'm sorry if I'm missing any questions here. Please feel free, if there are any questions along the way, to ask. I know I'm going through a lot of this very quickly, but I didn't want to go over the hour I have. But again, feel free to, if there's questions at the end too, maybe they can be pooled and I can answer them separately or in an email, but we should have some Q&A time at the end as well. So the main way that we get onto the dark web, right, is there's a series of browsers you can use to get on the dark web. They're called Tor browsers or Onion browsers, Onion routers. This is probably one of the most popular ones I think that people use. These Onion routers, they're all free to download. There's security-based nodes. They're all open source. They get updated regularly. If you're ever interested, they're not illegal to download. A lot of them come with security. Some people just use them as a replacement for a VPN service. But just know if you do that, there are a lot of websites and places that do block what are called Tor nodes. So instead of like for the IP address, it'll come back to what's called a Tor node. But that's how you get onto the dark web. And the dark web training is a whole separate day. So I apologize if this is a little bit too quick. The other thing to know, though, is I'm sure you see this with a lot of companies, depending where you all work, is that the use of VPNs has exponentially increased over the years. Not just for people concerned about the government watching them or just for their own security, right? A lot of people have downloaded VPNs. So there used to be a website before it was taken down by the government called deep.web, and it was a posting of all the dark web related news articles. If someone got arrested, what the best platforms out now for using to keep yourself safe from the government. But this was one of their top VPN lists back in the day, saying, hey, these are the ones we recommend using the best. One, they're either not, they either thought they were non-compliant with the government, or maybe they are, or maybe they were the easiest to use. They provide the most security. But you can see more and more people now are using VPN services. Again, right for their own security, but also you'll see all of our criminal actors are doing the same thing, and they're layering those. So it takes us a little bit longer to do investigations now because of that purpose. So in recap, real quick, so really what we're looking for, and we would always hope, so if people are writing SARS, CTRs, or, what we look for is specifically for cryptocurrency transactions is that transaction ID and our wallet address. That's going to help us identify where they were instructed to send that cryptocurrency and hopefully where it's going to be, where we can attempt to recover that cryptocurrency. Pretty much the ability for us to recover that is by, again, either grabbing the suspect, arresting the suspect with the devices, or it's going to be through another platform or exchange, right? Even if it's an overseas exchange, sometimes we do have communication with some of those exchanges, and we can let them know if criminal proceeds were sent into a wallet that they control. We can hopefully recover those funds. But just know, with the ease of cryptocurrency movement nowadays, most of these suspects move cryptocurrency within the same day. So again, if it's like weeks later or even days later, a lot of times it's not recoverable. So we do advise, as quickly as possible, either banking institutions if they have that direct contact with exchanges, or through law enforcement. We try to get a hold of the exchanges as well to stop victims' flow of funds, so we can recover those. So yeah, in short, this is the quick slide of what we look for. Where obviously the money was sent, the type of wallet that was used, and you also have that from the wallet address or the transaction ID that was done, the type of cryptocurrency that was used. Is that we are seeing criminal actors now are telling individuals to not just necessarily use Bitcoin. They're telling them to use other types of cryptocurrencies that are privacy coins, which are harder or impossible for us to trace, just because the transactions are not publicly posted on the blockchain, the private blockchain. So you'll see there's all these nuances to it, and again, that goes with having to deal with over 13,000 different types of cryptocurrency. But yeah, and then we also look for any details regarding the scams. At the end of the day, these people are contacted either through a social media platform, which is more often than not nowadays, especially with elderly victims. So there's going to be a phone number, there's going to be an email address, there'll be something for us to go back to, even if it is like a VoIP number. There always is some sort of communication that gets us back to where we need to go to. As far as what we talk about for reporting, I know you guys have my information. I have to say I'm fairly busy, so I'm not sure I'm always the best source, but I can point you in the right direction. Hopefully you guys have some local or other law enforcement contacts if it's not in your AOR. But there are always places, and again, some people think these are just government dumping grounds, unfortunately, where the information kind of goes and is processed. But there is the IC3.gov is a pool of complaints that come in, and so what happens is we do query those pages to see connectivity between some of our targets sometimes. So I do encourage everybody to report those to IC3. There is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. There's FDIC. So depending what nexus there are to the crime, the type of crime, I think there's something like 57 overlapping agencies in the United States that cover these investigations. Just depending what type of scam it is. I know the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, was heavily involved for a while in targeting what are called the ICOs, which are the initial coin offering cases. And it's because the volume of money was tremendous, especially from 2016, 2017 forward. People are getting away with about between $30 and $100 million on those scams. So just a quick reference list for you guys. I don't mean to cut it short there, but I want to make sure there's plenty of a couple minutes left for Q&A at the end. I know that was a little bit of a mad rush to go through there. So my apologies, but hopefully there's maybe some questions at the end I can help answer. I appreciate you guys for having me too. So sorry if I was a little bit rushed.
No, we appreciate it, Chris. Very informative. Just a couple questions as I'm scrolling through the Q&A.
Sure.
The crypto executive order put out yesterday by the president. What does it mean, and where are we going with this? What's your interpretation of it?
I think so. Okay, so again, I have not been as heavily involved in the legal side of things. I did a presentation to a couple of foreign attachés recently. I think all the foreign countries have the exact same question from their investigative side. It's where are we going with cryptocurrency? So I know there was a law that was going to be, it was set up for last year, I believe it was, that was going to require the identity for all wallets, they could not remain anonymous anymore, right? But the problem with that law is there's a lot of other things in there that would have crippled the market. So unfortunately, I didn't think that fortunately not, right? The law did not go through it. So I think that was an appeal from a lot of cryptocurrency exchanges saying, if you do this, if this law passes, one, there's not necessarily a way to enforce this law because of the way it was written, and two, it would completely cripple the market, cripple the cryptocurrency market. So I think the only thing we're going to see and again, I don't know all the details in the back end of that because it was a very introductory kind of what we were told. But I think what you're going to see is, again, with larger institutions that have become on the market, I think JPMC, I think if I'm mistaken, but Fidelity, there's other investment firms that have taken up and are doing more in the cryptocurrency realm. There's a lot of fintech companies now that are operating in the cryptocurrency realm as well. For investment purposes in cryptocurrency, I think you're just going to see it more and more. It's streamlined into the traditional financial system, and that's what I think that. And again, I can't really speak on behalf of the government. And it sounds like I say it, working for the government. I just don't know though, because there's so many interested parties in there, right? And there's so much overlap between agencies. It's hard for me to say, but I think what you're just going to look for is it's going to be more mainstream implementation of cryptocurrencies in the long run. But yeah, I don't necessarily see the digitizing necessarily the U.S. dollar, because it's kind of already there. The way SWIFT and FedWire and the way banking institutions already work, there's so many of it's pretty much digitized as it is now. All the other thing I can say is that I know banks over the past 3 or 4 years, or maybe even 5 years now, I've been discussing with banks, even doing traditional AML KYC presentations. A lot of them are looking to move to a internal blockchain platform. And I think a lot of them were looking toward a what's called Ripple or XRP-based platform, just because it can process so many transactions per second. where Bitcoin cannot process that many per second. It's one of the downfalls of Bitcoin. So you can see that, like, even for credit card transactions per second, most cryptocurrencies couldn't handle the amount of transactions that go on per second, right? So I think what it is if they're really going to mainstream it and kind of incentivizing companies to stick on the path of researching how those tools will be used, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. Another attendee had a question of, can you explain how the crypto trader scams are working on Instagram? Is that a form of like a crypto Ponzi scheme?
So so I know that some of those are going on. I wish I could. I'll be very blunt. Like, I don't necessarily work all of those. There's so many. We tend to focus on one. This is kind of bad. Not bad. We are trying to get more and more investigators to be involved in the cryptocurrency realm, right? So we're trying to hire more people now who have that background, who have that understanding, because there's so many scams happening nowadays. It's hard to kind of keep up with all of them. The cases that we do focus on outside of just the traditional like narcotics ones we have locally, and this because it's like a priority of there's certain agency priorities that come on for pursuing certain investigation types, and there are the standard thresholds that we look for on the federal side for prosecuting them federally. So that's probably the other part of that problem. Obviously it falls under maybe $50,000 or $10,000, we won't necessarily look at it. We'll refer it locally, but a lot of locals don't have the resources to pursue these criminally. So again, I'm not as familiar, unfortunately, with those type of investigations. But a lot of those do involve around either traditional Ponzi scheme investigations. There's just like all kinds of scams involved in cryptocurrency, between like new ICO scams. Anyway, and I wish if there's a specific example or something you want to forward me, I think my email's on here. So if there's something like you're more than welcome to kind of reach out if there's an article or something you're interested in. But yeah, I mean, really, we focus on like the larger ICO scams, which tend to be like in the $10 or $100 million or more. There's so many of those that happen over the past couple of years, and then again, the traditional like cases we involve, which are like the child exploitation stuff, the drugs and weapons.
Yep, thanks for that. One last question is just, are there any red flags to look out for possible crypto fraud type schemes?
It depends. There's a lot of them, because there's, again, all the variables that you have in the traditional financial sector you see now in the crypto sector, right? And that's why I think a lot of us on the investigative side, right or wrong, like for investment purposes, we're pushing for more regulation for cryptocurrency, because you can see all the traditional scams that happened before regulation of the stock market. And again, like, I'm sure the stock market gets manipulated by bots and everything else. But you see that on a different level on the crypto side, too, because it hasn't been as regulated, and it's international, and there's so much tech that gets dumped into it and money gets dumped into it. You're seeing it happen out there. But in relation to your question, the things we really look for is on the individual users one is a lot of cryptocurrency being dumped into their accounts and or their bank accounts that are linked to it. So a lot of guys we see will send typically maybe cash out into their bank account maybe once a week, or something like that for all the transactions that come from their cryptocurrency accounts. We just looked at, obviously, like, are they registered as a money service business? Obviously, if they have unsolicited source of funds. So a lot of our guys now, to avoid that and just keep their bank accounts, because especially in the past, their bank accounts were getting flagged, they're just doing cash deposits weekly at ATMs now. Another way that they're doing it now is they're making themselves kind of front businesses, and they're hiring armored car services. So if the bank has a relationship like that, and I forget what the relationship's called, but essentially if it's like that third-party relationship with banks that have armored car service transports, they are having ATMs. They'll set up like one or two ATMs at storefronts. They'll pack them with all their illicit money, and then they have an armored car service come pick them up throughout the week. So they'll get $50,000, $100,000 deposits from their ATMs. Each ATM, depending upon the size of it, can hold between maybe $25,000 and $50,000, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on some of the newer, bigger models. So there's kind of a myriad of things to look for, but really at the end of the day, are they a registered MSB for those cash deposits? And if so, they should have hopefully reported like what type of business they're in, and that's what we're looking for as it relates to traditionally to the banking sector. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But yeah,
looks like we're
crypto ATMs are huge now. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, we appreciate the very good explanation and overview on this topic. It's very interesting and very insightful from law enforcement perspective. Any last comments from you, Chris?
No, I would just say, like, it's one of those things where I apologize it's overwhelming up front, but once you kind of get initially involved in them, it becomes not quite as complicated, I would say. We really encourage, everybody to have some familiarity with them because almost all of our scams are, even though they are traditional, like a lot of them are traditional, every single one of them is moving more and more heavily every week. We see more and more people getting involved with cryptocurrency. So again, if there's another day we have you back, or we definitely have a different presenter who's excellent as well. We just hired her. She was a PhD from the University of Alabama that came on, and she probably makes me look like I'm in elementary school when I talk about this stuff. We'd be happy to. I'm sure she would be happy to come on too and give you guys maybe a different perspective of that. Especially she worked in the private sector before then. But if there's anything we can help with, please always feel free to reach out. And if I can point you in the right direction, or maybe somebody that can help you know, if I don't know, I'm happy to. So I think the only way we build it is by having those relationships in place.
Yeah, well, very well said. Yeah, thanks again, Special Agent Chris Hicks, for this overview. We appreciate your time this afternoon, which I think is still morning your time. But thank you again for everyone for your attendance today. And the slides will be made available post this webinar. I believe there will be a link that will be sent out. If there's any questions, please forward them to acamsyntex@gmail.com. Thank you again for everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.